She was taking photos of the sunset through her airplane window when she noticed something that made her heart stop. A piece of the wing was peeling away, metal fragments tearing loose at 39,000 feet. What happened next would turn a routine photography hobby into a desperate race against time, and her decision to keep filming would expose a cover-up that had put thousands of lives at risk. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Sarah Mitchell loved photography more than almost anything. She traveled twice a month for her job as a sales consultant, and every flight was an opportunity to capture something beautiful. She always requested a window seat, always kept her camera ready, always watched the sky change colors as they flew through different time zones. This flight from Phoenix to Chicago was no different. She settled into seat WTA, her camera bag tucked carefully under the seat in front of her, her phone fully charged for backup shots. The sunset was supposed to be spectacular tonight, and she had checked the weather patterns before boarding. Clear skies, perfect light, the kind of conditions photographers dream about. The plane took off smoothly, climbing through the early evening air. Sarah waited patiently, watching the ground fall away below, watching the sky begin its slow transformation from blue to orange to pink. She had been doing this for 5 years, had thousands of photos stored on her hard drives at home, had even sold a few prints to stock photography websites. But she never got tired of it, never stopped feeling that little thrill when the light hit the clouds just right. An hour into the flight, the sunset began. Sarah lifted her camera and started shooting, adjusting her settings to capture the brilliant colors spreading across the horizon. She took wide shots of the entire sky, close-ups of individual cloud formations, experimental angles that included part of the wing in the frame for perspective. She was reviewing one of these wing shots on her camera screen when she noticed something odd. There was a small gap in the metal, right where 2 panels joined together near the engine. She lowered her camera and looked directly at the wing. At first, she thought maybe it was supposed to be there, some kind of design feature she had never noticed before. But as she watched, the gap seemed to widen slightly. She raised her camera again and zoomed in, using the telephoto lens to get a closer look. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The metal was not just separated, it was peeling. Like someone was slowly opening a can, the aluminum skin of the wing was curling back, exposing the internal structure underneath. She could see rivets straining, could see the metal flexing with each tiny movement of the wing. Her hands started shaking. She looked around the cabin to see if anyone else had noticed. The man next to her was asleep, his head tilted back and mouth open. The woman across the aisle was reading a magazine. A few rows ahead, a child was watching a movie on a tablet. Nobody was looking out the windows. Nobody else could see what she was seeing. Sarah turned back to the wing and watched in horror as another piece of metal tore loose. It was small, maybe the size of her hand, but it ripped away from the wing and disappeared into the rushing air. The gap was now several inches wide, and through it, she could see wires and hydraulic lines, the guts of the aircraft exposed to the wind. She pressed the flight attendant call button, her finger jabbing it repeatedly. She kept her eyes on the wing, watching as the damage slowly progressed. Another fragment broke free, this one larger, tumbling away into the darkening sky. The entire panel was coming apart, and they were still hours from landing. A flight attendant appeared beside her, smiling, asking what she needed. Sarah pointed at the wing, her voice coming out higher than normal. She said the wing was breaking apart, that pieces were falling off, that something was seriously wrong. The flight attendant leaned across the sleeping man to look out the window. Her smile faded. She stared for a long moment, then told Sarah to stay calm, that she was going to inform the captain immediately. She hurried toward the cockpit, moving faster than flight attendants usually moved, her professional composure cracking just enough for Sarah to see the fear underneath. Sarah raised her camera and started recording video. Her hands were trembling so badly that the footage was shaky, but she kept filming. She did not know why exactly, did not have a clear thought about what she would do with the video. She just knew that she needed to document what was happening, needed proof of what she was seeing. More pieces broke away. She could see the metal flexing now, bending in ways it clearly was not supposed to bend. The wing was still attached, was still generating lift, but how long would that last? How much damage could it sustain before it failed completely? The plane suddenly banked to the right, a sharp turn that made several passengers gasp. The sleeping man next to Sarah woke up, confused and startled. The captain's voice came over the intercom, saying they were experiencing a minor technical issue and would be making an emergency landing at the nearest airport. He told everyone to remain seated with their seatbelts fastened. His voice was calm, controlled, but Sarah could hear the tension underneath. The cabin erupted in worried murmurs. Passengers sat up straighter, put away their devices, looked around nervously. Parents pulled their children closer. People started asking the flight attendants what was happening, but the crew was busy preparing the cabin for an emergency landing, checking that everyone was buckled in, making sure bags were secured, demonstrating the brace position. Sarah kept filming. The wing continued to deteriorate, more panels peeling away, exposing more of the internal structure. She could see fluid leaking now, a thin stream of liquid that immediately evaporated in the wind. Hydraulic fluid maybe, or fuel. She did not know enough about aircraft systems to be sure, but she knew it was bad. The plane descended rapidly, dropping altitude much faster than a normal descent. Sarah's ears popped painfully. The wing was flexing more violently now, bending up and down with each bit of turbulence. She could see the entire damaged section rippling, the metal fatigued and failing. They dropped through a layer of clouds, and suddenly she could see the ground approaching fast. City lights spread out below them, highways and buildings and parking lots. The airport appeared in the distance, its runways marked with bright lights. Emergency vehicles were already gathering, their red and blue lights flashing in the growing darkness. The plane lined up for landing, the damaged wing tilting at an angle that looked wrong. Sarah braced herself, one hand gripping her camera, the other clutching the armrest. The flight attendants were shouting instructions, telling everyone to brace, to put their heads down, to prepare for a hard landing. The ground rushed up to meet them. Sarah saw the runway lights blurring past, saw the emergency vehicles racing alongside them. The wheels touched down with a violent jolt that threw everyone forward against their seatbelts. The plane bounced once, twice, then slammed down a third time and stayed down. The engines roared in reverse thrust, the brakes screaming. They were slowing, but not fast enough. The runway was running out. Sarah watched through the window as they hurtled past the normal exit taxiways, getting closer and closer to the end of the runway. Finally, with what seemed like only a few hundred feet to spare, the plane shuddered to a stop. For a moment, nobody moved. The cabin was completely silent, except for the sound of people breathing hard, trying to process what had just happened. Then the emergency slides deployed with loud pops, and the flight attendants started shouting for everyone to evacuate. People unbuckled and rushed toward the exits. Sarah grabbed her camera and joined the crowd, moving as fast as she could. She slid down the emergency slide and hit the ground running, following the crew's directions to move away from the aircraft. When she was a safe distance away, she turned and looked back at the plane. Even in the darkness, even with just the airport lights for illumination, she could clearly see the damage to the wing. A huge section of the skin was gone, at least 10 feet long, the metal peeled back like paper. Emergency crews were already surrounding the aircraft, foam trucks standing by in case of fire. Paramedics moved through the crowd of passengers, checking for injuries. Most people were shaken but unhurt. A few had minor bumps and bruises from the rough landing. Sarah stood there holding her camera, her whole body trembling with adrenaline. A federal investigator approached her 3 hours later at the airport terminal, where they had been taken. The investigator had heard that a passenger had filmed the wing failure as it was happening. Sarah showed her the video, showed her the dozens of photos she had taken. The investigator's face grew more serious with each image. She asked Sarah to send her everything, said it would be crucial evidence for the investigation. Over the next few weeks, the story exploded. Sarah's photos and video were shown on every news channel, analyzed by aviation experts, discussed by engineers and safety officials. The investigation revealed that the wing damage was caused by fatigue cracks that had gone undetected during routine inspections. The cracks had been growing for months, maybe years, weakening the structure until it finally began to fail. But the investigation also revealed something much worse. The airline had been cutting corners on maintenance, pressuring inspectors to rush through checks, ignoring warning signs that had appeared months earlier on other aircraft in their fleet. Internal documents showed that engineers had raised concerns about this specific type of wing failure, but management had dismissed the warnings, saying the repairs would be too expensive and would ground too many planes. Sarah's footage became the centerpiece of a federal case against the airline. Her photos showed exactly how the failure progressed, provided a timeline that investigators could not have gotten any other way. Aviation experts said her documentation was some of the most detailed evidence of an in-flight structural failure ever captured. The airline was hit with massive fines. Senior executives were fired. New regulations were implemented requiring more thorough wing inspections across the entire industry. The specific model of aircraft that Sarah had been on was temporarily grounded, while every single plane was checked for similar cracks. Dozens of aircraft were found to have the same problem, all of them caught before they could fail catastrophically. Sarah was invited to speak at aviation safety conferences. She testified before congressional committees. She became an unlikely advocate for passenger rights and maintenance transparency. But she always said the same thing when people called her a hero. She said she was just someone who happened to be looking out the window at the right time. Someone who had a camera ready and the presence of mind to document what she was seeing. She said the real heroes were the pilots who landed the plane safely, the investigators who uncovered the truth, the whistleblowers inside the airline who came forward with evidence after her story went public. But perhaps most importantly, she said her story showed why we must always stay alert, why we must never assume that someone else is handling the problems we see. She said that if she had ignored what she saw, if she had convinced herself that surely the pilots knew about it, or that it must be normal, the outcome might have been very different. She said that sometimes the person sitting in seat 18A with a camera and a habit of watching the sky can see what billion-dollar systems miss. And sometimes, the simple act of paying attention, of documenting the truth, of refusing to look away, even when something terrifying is happening right in front of you, can save not just one plane full of people, but potentially thousands of future passengers who might have flown on aircraft with the same hidden flaws. Sarah still flies twice a month for work. She still requests window seats. She still takes photos of sunsets. But now she also watches the wings, and she is not the only one. Passengers across the world are more aware now, more willing to speak up when they see something wrong. And airlines know that someone is always watching, always ready to document the truth. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.